Hi, my name is Charles, and I just wanted to have a discussion about, well, it's not really a discussion, it's a monologue, but about the Black Dahlia, Brian De Palma's 2006 thriller, the homage to 1940s detective films. And really, I should do two videos of this because one should be just a review of the film, but this one is going to be trying to unlock the mysteries of the Black Dahlia because there are things going on in the movie that are not in the book. Um, so there's something De Palma is trying to do, particularly with these four characters that you see on the screen here. And what's in the movie that's not in the book is that they seem to be there's a change in their identity. And I want to begin with Lee, played by Aaron Eckhart. Lee Blanchard. In in the story, Lee Blanchard is living with Kay, who in the movie is played by Scarlett Johansson. And, he's a detective. She's somebody he saved. She was a prostitute at one point in time. She had an abusive pimp. And ultimately, he took her out of that situation. Now they live with each other. Bucky, played by Josh Hartnett, is Lee's partner. And they're all three friends. And a key characteristic is Kay and Lee aren't sleeping together. It is suggested that they've never slept together. And this is in the book. It's explained in the book. At least there's a suggestion as to why that they don't sleep together in the book. In the movie, though, Brian De Palma deliberately makes that ambiguous. Just announces that they're not sleeping together. Or at least Kay tells Bucky that she and Lee are not sleeping together, and again implied that they've never slept together. So they leave it up in the air as to why. Now, here's the theory, and I have to credit some folks online, in particular the website called I Talk You Board, which I highly recommend because they extensively read the book, extensively watched the film, and they have pointed out similarities, but also big differences between the book and movie, especially differences to these four characters. And so the theory is that in the movie, Lee and Kay don't sleep with each other because Lee perhaps it's not written in stone, guys, but perhaps Lee is has homosexual feelings, but it's the 40s, so he's suppressing them and he's replacing any sort of sexual desires potentially for men, and maybe even Bucky himself, his detective partner. He's suppressing those feelings in other ways, obsessing over a case, or being a successful boxer, before he became a detective, and that sort of thing. So it's a kind of I guess, a wild stab, a wild theory, but I mean, only one reason I can think of for Brian De Palma to make it more ambiguous in the film than it is in the book. Now, this leads to Kay, who is very heterosexual. There's no, she's one of the few characters. There's literally no question about her sexuality, but she likes men. In the book, she is portrayed as a former prostitute saved by Lee, but she loves Lee. She really does love Lee. And even though she might flirt with the idea of being with Bucky briefly, and she maybe ends up with Bucky later on, the truth is she's very loyal to Lee. In the movie, big change. They make it clear she's interested in Bucky, and she's trying to seduce Bucky. It's just very clear. That's a big change in the movie. No bones about it. De Palma wants us to know Kay is into Bucky. Kay wants, frankly, Bucky to replace Lee. And because of that, and because she kind of lies occasionally, Kay does, she seems very sweet, very sweet, and she seems sincere. The fact is, in the movie, she's a little more of a femme fatale than she is in the book. And again, this is intentional from Brian De Palma. This is a clear change by making her seduce Bucky, or trying to seduce Bucky. There's even a moment where Lee is very much in danger, and Bucky wants to know where he is so that he can help him. And Kay deliberately hesitates, stalls. She ends up taking a long time before she tells Bucky where Lee is. And the theory is because she's willing to have Bucky replace Lee by any means necessary, even if that means endangering Lee. So uh, this is pretty undisputable. I mean, if you watch the film, this is she is definitely a bit of a femme fatale, at least motivated by survival. She's not evil, evil, but she definitely has kind of a dark undertone to her. But she's great. Scarlett is great, and she's kind of like a buxom Lana Turner, and so there's there can't possibly be a another explanation as to why Lee doesn't make love to this lady that he lives with. So now the real interesting character is Madeline, played by Hilary Swank. Madeline is supposed to be kind of a doppelganger for Mia Kirshner's character, the Black Dahlia, or otherwise known as Betty Short. Elizabeth Short was her real name. Um, the movie makes it clear Madeline was kind of obsessed with Elizabeth Short, or Betty, and they both dressed in black, both wore a flower motif in their hair, went out at night, sort of prowling at night. And they make it clear that Madeline was kind of obsessed with her. So, but she's supposed to be her doppelganger. Now, the big difference is the Dahlia, Betty Short, she had soft features and she had very clear sort of blue eyes or bluish green eyes. Mia Kirshner plays her in the movie beautifully too, by the way, but very different from what Hilary Swank looks like. Hilary Swank has sort of stronger features. I mean, very beautiful woman to me. I think Hilary Swank is a very beautiful woman, but she's got stronger sort of features, a square jaw. She's got dark brown eyes. I mean, and she's known for she's played some androgynous characters in the past, right? So Brian De Palma knows this. If anybody knows how to cast a doppelganger, it's Brian De Palma because he's done it multiple times before. I mean, and he always casts the same actress or actor, whether it's Genevieve Bujold, John Lithgow, uh, Rebecca Romaine. I mean, he's had a lot of movies that featured doubles, twins, doppelgangers, always the same actor playing both parts. Here is a story that actually features a doppelganger that he's adapting, and he hires two actors to play both roles. That's weird already. Why not the same actor? But not only does he hire two different actresses, they look so different. I mean, sure, you could use the excuse that they both wear black, and Hilary Swank, when she goes out on the town, she kind of poofs her hair out so it looks a little bit curly. And she has a black flower in her hair. So that's kind of the excuse that the movie makes when they keep saying that she looks like the Dahlia. But in truth, Brian De Palma knows facially that Hilary Swank looks a lot different than Mia Kirshner. He knows she's played Million Dollar Baby, and she's played Boys Don't Cry. So there's something else going on there. So what is it? Well, the theory is she's not really just the Dahlia's doppelganger. She's actually Bucky's doppelganger. Josh Hartnett, the protagonist of the film. I mean, think about it. Square jaw, dark brown eyes. He's called Bucky because, he, at least before the boxing match in the movie, he had large front teeth. Um, and so that was his nickname. In the book, it's talked about more, but in the movie, it's more implied. But just so happens Hillary Swank has, let's just say, a healthy, you know, set of front teeth. Again, I think she's very attractive. I wish I had her teeth, but they're sizable teeth, you know. And I just feel like it makes sense that Brian De Palma has a motive for this. Like, why Hillary Swank as supposedly the double of Betty Short? And like I said, it's because in the movie she's actually his doppelganger. In the movie, she actually wears men's clothing a couple of times, suit, tie, a fedora. In the book, that was never the case. That's something they totally added in the film. In the movie, or in the book, there's a scene where they're sleeping together, Bucky and Madeline, and she finally admits to Bucky that she slept with Elizabeth Short. And here's how she puts it. She says, that one time last summer, I slept with Elizabeth Short. I wanted to know what it was like to sleep with a girl who looked just like me. They changed that one word in that line in the film, but it's a pretty important word. She in the movie she goes, I wanted to know what it was like to sleep with someone who looked just like me. So they changed it from girl to someone. And then Bucky looks at her. In the book, when she admits that she slept with Betty Short, he gets up out of bed. He seems to be offended and he leaves. Pretty cut and dry. In the movie, when she says that she slept with Betty Short, he laughs it off. He laughs it off, and he almost looks relieved that it wasn't some other issue that she had, or that she didn't know something about the murder or what have you. But he's laughing it off as if that was no big deal. And then she says, I wanted to know what it was like to sleep with someone who looks just like me. And then he looks at her again, right in the eyes, still smiling. And then he pauses, and then he jumps back as if he just realized something or as if he just discovered something. And then he jumps out of bed and looks at her again in a way that can only be described as if he'd seen a ghost. He looks scared out of his mind. He just freaked out. Now, before this theory, it seemed like an over-the-top reaction. It's like, wow, you're going to react to that? Like, you met her at a lesbian club. She told you she was obsessed with Elizabeth Short. She told you she met Elizabeth Short and another lady at the lesbian club. You're a detective. You didn't suspect that might be, a possibility that she and Betty slept together. So why the reaction? Well, here's the theory. He was fine when she said that she slept with Betty Short. Because, at least she didn't know anything about the murder, or at least she didn't admit to knowing anything about the murder. And when she said she wanted to sleep with someone who looked just like her, he looks at her, again, sort of shrugging it off. And then as he looked closer into her face, into those brown eyes, he saw something. He saw himself in her face. And he jumped out of bed and looked again. And what scared him is the idea, not that he was sleeping with the Dahlia lookalike, but he was sleeping with somebody who looked just like himself. A woman who is bisexual, played by an actress who, has been androgynous in the past, in films. And in the movie, has worn men's clothing, including a fedora, very similar clothing to what Bucky dresses like, or any other man really back in the 1940s. And that scared the hell out of him, right? The idea that he would sleep with someone androgynous, it for a man back in the 40s, that's almost like being one step closer to being gay, which he probably suspected Lee of being, right? Because once he found out Kay and Lee weren't sleeping together, he had to suspect maybe Lee, is has homosexual feelings. Like, why else wouldn't he sleep with this drop dead gorgeous lady? And he doesn't want to be like Lee. Remember, this is the 40s, and homosexuality and bisexuality was frowned upon back in those days, and I suppose these days by some people as well. Um, but that certainly scared the idea that he could even maybe harbor those type of feelings scared the hell out of him. Now, I'm not saying that Bucky is in fact bisexual or gay, but I think the idea of it scared the hell out of him. And I think this is subtext and layers that Brian De Palma decided to bring to these characters that just simply wasn't in the book. And no matter what you think, these might be exaggerations or reaching. Those differences are there between the book and the movie, and those differences are there for a reason. And Brian De Palma is smarter than a lot of people think. And this guy is really a brilliant person and filmmaker and a writer as well as a director. And he is exactly the kind of guy that is going to subvert the usual. Right? He's not just gonna depict a hardboiled detective or a femme fatale, in cookie cutter form. He's going to subvert who they are. That's not unusual for Brian De Palma. So there you go. You unlock the mysteries of these characters, and this movie becomes something a little bit different, and it explains quite a lot. And you add to that all of the other things that I could talk about that I'll probably talk about in a different video about the production values and about the pacing and the editing. And this is actually quite a brilliant film. I don't think it will ever, unlike a lot of Brian De Palma films that have been appreciated the more time has passed. I'm not sure this movie ever will because it's so. I think it may be so far above most our heads that I don't think it'll ever fully be appreciated. But I'm just going to say I think this film harbors secrets and is a real gem. And I'm proud to put it in my A tier of Brian De Palma films. I think I have it in my top 10. Brian, yeah, it's in my top 10 favorite Brian De Palma films. So worth checking out, especially. I will have hoped that you've already seen the movie once or twice before you saw this, but worth seeing again. And I want to thank you so much for listening. For the one or two people out there that might have accidentally stumbled upon this, and hope you have a great